Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Thursday morning, July the 14th. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast. And I've got the chat room up in there with the link in there to what we're talking about. I've been looking at this for over 2 months now, probably right around 2 months anyway. Robert Burney's webpage is Joy to Me and You, and that is www.joy2meu.com. And talking about I'm taking a look at the grief process techniques that he's got there. And so, yeah, I appreciate everybody who's tuning in and catching my shows. And I do so many shows, it's hard to keep up. And so I appreciate you taking the time to do that and, you know, be a part of my healing journey here in the morning. And I just appreciate people who are, you know, it's not easy to listen to. It's not easy. So many of us have been through so many horrible things. And, you know, this is sort of my way, you know, of handling the situation. It's a period of time during the day that I can actually, you know, allow myself to spend working through some of this stuff, you know, because I have to be in the present for most of my day. So it's kind of I found that it's very helpful for me, but, you know, I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. I also want to draw attention, you know, for other people who were not abused, you know, just how serious of an issue this really is, and that, you know, it's very damaging and it's hard. It's extremely hard to come to grips and come to terms with what's happened to us, you know what I mean? And Robert Burney, he's got some great stuff here. He's a codependence therapist. He's a grief counselor, and he's also a spiritual teacher. And he's written a book. He's an author, and it's called Codependence: The Dance of Wounded Souls. And he's got some great info here. Like, this website just got loaded with all kinds of information that we won't probably cover most of it. Like, I'm only looking at certain portions to do with the inner child work and whatnot, because that's what I'm working on right now. And so, yeah, I appreciate everybody taking the time to be here and listen, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. And I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist or anything like that, and I'm just a private person doing my shows here on Blog Talk Radio. And so it's important for you to know that, you know, you have to listen to all of my shows at your own discretion, you know, because I'm talking about abuse, and it's a sensitive subject, and it could make people feel uncomfortable. It could trigger survivors who are just on their healing journey, just starting out. You know, it's graphic, it's not for children, you know, and for young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. You know, have an adult or somebody in your life who's older, who's an adult, help you make the decision whether you should be listening to my shows or not. Because they really, you know, it's about stopping child abuse, but there's a whole lot of adult content on it, and I think that, you know, children deserve to be protected, yeah, and children should be protected at all times. And so you need to learn, you know, if you're under the age of 18, you need to learn how to keep yourself safe online and what you should be listening to, and be very careful what you're doing, because some of this stuff, you know, you have to be very cautious because it's adult-oriented. And so I just put a warning on my shows and, you know, ask the people under the age of 18 have permission to listen to my shows, right? So thanks, everybody. We'll get right into this. And this particular, excuse me, this section is the grief process techniques, and it's from www.joy2meandyou, joy, Joy, the number 2, meu.com/grief.htm. And we're about, I don't know, at least 2/3 down the way of the page there. And he says, Robert Burney says, there's no quick fix. He says, understanding the process does not replace going through it. He says, there's no magic pill, there's no magic book, there's no guru or channeled entity that can make it possible to avoid the journey within, the journey through the feelings. So, you know, to having to go through and grieve this stuff, mourn this stuff that we had to go through or that we were put through as children. And even if we weren't abused, you know, we could have grown up in a dysfunctional home with a lot of you know, these behavior type issues that caused us a lot of problems, right? So it's really, like he's saying, there's no quick fix. We have to go through the process. We have to actually go through and deal with it. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been doing for 4 years. And he says, no one outside of self, like true spiritual self, is going to magically heal us. And he says there's not going to be some alien ET landing in a spaceship singing "Turn on Your Heart Light" who is going to magically heal us all. And he says the only one who can turn on your heart light is you. So the only one who can give your inner children healthy parenting is you. And he says the only healer who can heal you is within you. And he said it's quite interesting because this is what I was talking to my good friend Gypsy last night, and we're doing some visualizations and stuff, and we were talking about the inner child. And I remember when I first started looking at the inner child work, which would have been probably nearly 2 years ago. And had read some stuff before, obviously, but when I really started looking at it, I wasn't really sure, if I even, you know, believed that I needed to do inner child work, or that it would be necessary for me to do that, or be something that I would find helpful. I wasn't so sure about it because I had never really thought about it. I knew I had, this inner child, but I had never really gotten in touch with that inner child. So as I've been, going through my healing process in the last couple of years here, the just dealing with the material that I've been dealing with has allowed me to really see, take a real deep look inside of myself to see that there are some inner children there, and that they were split at different times when I split due to the trauma, due to the overwhelming trauma of what was happening to me. Right. So, excuse me. So I've had to learn how to get in touch with these inner children, and knowing that they're there, and yet, in my mind, I was like, do I really need to get in touch with them? Like, what would be the purpose and what would be the outcome? Because for me, just to do something, just to do it, didn't make any sense. Like, I wanted to see what the outcome would be and whether or not it would be, something I would want to pursue. So I started looking into the inner child work, and this was a while back now, and really delving into it and realized that I really did need to do that because I had never received any nurturing when I was young. So I needed to reach myself, that inner person that I was from so long ago. And I need to be that nurturer. Nobody else can really do that, right? And I need to be able to be the nurturer and the one that says, I love you and I love myself. I love all the parts of myself. To that little wounded person who really, when I was a child, really felt unloved and really felt unwanted and rejected, and just grew angry and more and more angrier by the year as the years progressed as I was growing up. So then there's an angry teen in there, somewhere, which is probably the more of the voice that I have today, which is just an extension of my angry teenager. But it's pretty harsh, and I mean really when you think about it, he's the only healer who can heal you is within you. And I think even if I've read this, I haven't gone to see any psychiatrists or psychologists or or counselors, therapists or anything like this, but I've read a lot of material and seen, just about every place that I read, that generally they are really just the guides. They can't really do the healing work. It has to come from within us. We have to be able to basically go in and take care of the damage that was done from so long ago. And if we're not willing to take a real honest look at it, that's why 4 years ago I was like, because I had never been in denial. Really, it's not a form of denial. I think I split just to be able to cope. But I never was really in denial. I knew what had happened to me, and I had memories and certain memories of certain things, so I knew what had happened to me. But, I wasn't never in denial about it, right? But I know, for myself, if I'm not going to be completely honest about what happened, how it made me feel, and how, because it hurts to do that, right? This grief work and looking at all this inner child stuff is really difficult because it means I have to go back and I have to remember how I felt when certain things happened to me, that were really traumatic or really horrible to me as a child, that actually caused me to feel the way I do right today, and all the way through my, as the years progressed, right? And so, I've got a real, I guess you would want to call it, bad attitude. And you can hear it in my voice. And my voice, didn't used to be this way, right? I've developed this cynical, bad, grumpy, angry attitude because of what happened to me as a child, And it started really manifesting in my teens when I decided to go ahead and start speaking out at my parents and really telling it like it was. Because I was like, what are you going to do, kill me now? Go ahead, right? I don't care. And so, that's still with me, right? And so I'm trying to learn, eventually learn how to, kind of turn that around a little bit, you know what I mean? And eventually, my goal in this healing process is to be at peace, And I did find my peace, and I know where that comes from because I'm a Christian, and, for me, peace is Jesus, amen. But the thing is it has to be manifested in your life, So I have to see this peace manifested And I still don't really have the peace manifested, even though I'm still in really much, I'm in a whole lot better place than I ever was. You know, but I'll never ever be able to say that it was okay what my parents did to me, right? So I can't fool myself, right? I can't sit there and say, oh no, I'm fine, everything's great, oh it's wonderful, because I will never ever be able to condone that. So I'm always going to have these issues and these feelings, I think, to a certain degree. And what I'm going to have to eventually do is learn that, you know, as each year goes by, you know, in my healing process, that it will just become less and less and less, you know, painful for me. Because I think that's where the pain is sitting up pretty close to the surface, as most people can tell, especially from my show last night. I mean, you know what I mean? Like some of my shows here lately and recently, the pain level, I mean, it's right up there at the surface. You can, you know, I mean, I know I'm in pain, and other people listening probably can tell too, especially somebody who studies psychiatry, you know, can probably tell that's where that's coming from. And so, you know, the pain, I believe, will lessen for myself. I don't know about anybody else. I'm just talking about myself. You know, that's my hope, is that this pain that will just lessen and lessen and lessen. It has lessened, you know, it's decreased since 4 years ago. So that's the difference. Like 4 years ago, I was in so much pain that I couldn't even deal with it. I just wanted to end my life. I was like, I just want to be out of here. I don't want to be in this pain anymore. It's not really that I wanted to kill myself. You know what I mean? I wanted out of the pain, and I didn't want to do drugs, and I didn't want to try to numb myself out anymore. And I just thought, how am I going to get out of this pain? And I was just praying. I thought, I got, you know, somebody take away my pain. But I didn't realize it was going to have to be me to do it, you know, until 4 years ago. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this. I've talked about this a lot on my shows. So Robert Berney's absolutely right. Like, we have to do this. Like, we're really the only ones that can go in there and help ourselves. Nobody else knows exactly what that child went through, you know. And even if they knew what you went through, it because they saw you were being abused. Even if somebody saw my mother beating on me, and because people did, but they did absolutely nothing to offer any help, right? But the thing is, I mean, I'm talking even spiritual. I'm talking no help, period, right? It's kind of like, you deserve that. You get what you get. You're a bad kid, and then my siblings would end up hitting me or punching me, right? So it was no mercy for me, you know. I was a black sheep of the family, but actually we were all black sheep, all 7 of us. So it wasn't just me. But the thing is, you know, like, even if people had seen there and actually been there and witnessed, you know, my brother was sexually abusing me, you know, raping me and sodomizing me, like, I'm still going to have to be the one to go in and help myself, because nobody's really going to know and understand what was going on in my mind at that time and what was going on in my body at that time. So I'm the one that has to get in touch with that. So I do agree with what Robert Berney has said here, you know, as far as like getting in touch with this stuff and being our nurturer, our own caregiver, the loving, caring person that we needed so long ago. You know, have to go back and show ourselves that we truly did not, you know, did the best we could. We didn't deserve that. We certainly didn't bring it on ourselves, and we need to, you know, I need to go back and be good to myself at that age and nurture myself and say, you know what, you did not deserve that, for all the different stages through all the garbage that happened to us. So, you know, it's pretty, like, I mean, for you know, like, I would never suggest somebody do this on their own, you know, and I always, you know, like, when I was reading the ASCA support Survivor to Thriver workbook, you know, the first 35 pages are safety first. Because that's how important it is to make sure that when you start something like this and you actually start looking through, you know, and if you're a survivor of abuse of any kind or just some traumatic stuff, you know, anything traumatic that caused you a lot of pain or grief, you know, if you really want to start looking at it, you have to be completely sure that you can do that, you know, before you start something like that. So many people can't do this stuff self-help, you know. And so you have to be very, very careful and understand, you know, how it is very, very serious, and that, you know, you don't want to be halfway through working on something and then find out that you can't handle it, right? This is what happens to some people, and it's a horrifying experience for them. For myself, I knew I could handle it. And people would say, how? How did you know? Well, because 4 years ago I made a commitment to myself, right? That I would not hurt myself, I would not hurt anybody else, I would not kill myself. I'm going to heal. So I made this commitment to myself, and I'm okay to do the work myself. But sometimes people aren't. So you have to make sure that you're 100% sure before you start out doing something like this on your own, and make sure that you are in a safe enough place in your mind and in your spirit and in your psyche, to be able to do something like this on your own. Because you certainly don't want to make things worse, right? And that's where people, you do have to be very careful, and that's why I put a discretionary warning on all my shows, because you don't want to be triggered and then find out halfway through that, oh my God, now I'm panicking, I'm upset, like what do I do? You want to have those coping skills in place. You want to have things that you can reach out to that are going to be like a safety net, right? Whether it's friends or whether it's somebody in the family, or if you have a sweetheart or whatever, or if you don't have anybody in your life, which I know how that can be. Then you have a crisis line number handy, and you make a commitment to yourself. You make a commitment to yourself that you're going to phone it, and that you deserve to get help, and that there's no shame in getting help and reaching out, right? So you just whatever you have to do, you know what I mean. Make sure that you're in a safe enough place to do this stuff. For myself, it is disturbing. You bet it is, to have to go back and relive those memories, because I'm actually writing my book, my sequel to A Life of Death and Redemption. And, to go back and look at this stuff is extremely disturbing, and so it can be hard. There's days where my mind wants to be in the past, and actually I'm like, no, we can't spend that much time over there. We can't spend that much time in that torturous state. It's too hard on me. It's too hard on my psyche. It's too hard on my body. It's too hard on everything, because I've got body memories. I've got all kinds of stuff going on that is very disturbing. So, but I'm okay to do it myself. But I'm very good at being in the present. Like, I can be in the present when I need to be. And that's maybe the difference between me and somebody else. We're all different. Like, I have no problem snapping back to the present and staying in the present. Because what I do is I just focus on grounding work and saying, oh, I got to be in the present now. So I can't be looking at this stuff from the past, and I've got things to do. Because, most of us are busy, right? Like, I don't have time to do what I really need to be doing in the day. I need about 48 hours, like most people, right? So, for me to be sitting around in the past for too long, and I don't think it's all that healthy for me, right? Because I can't spend that much time in that torturous state, because it's always there on the edge. That torturous state of what I went through as a child is always just right on the edge, and that's because it is part of my it's part of my conscious, it's part of my psyche. But the thing is I don't allow myself to to really dwell on it or get too involved with it, because you can spend. I did used to spend weeks and weeks and weeks and years even in a state of just sheer. I don't even want to call it depression. Just being, not like a clinical depression, more like a state of mind that was just so down, and just so wounded. And so I just don't want to do that now, because I have too many things that I'm interested in doing, and I can't spend that amount of time in that space. And actually that's for me so much healthier for me to just look at this stuff in these increments that are manageable, whether it's an hour or so a day or half an hour a day, whatever it is. But at least I'm not staying back there in that torturous place of of this horrible stuff that happened to me. I'm not there all day like I used to be, because there's been periods of time in my life where, as an adult, where I would be there like all day, in these horrible, places where I had been beaten, or where I had been so abused by my parents, or this sexual abuse from my brother. Right. So it wasn't healthy for me. I don't know if it's healthy for anybody really, but I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a counselor. But we do still need to do the work. But I just always suggest that, if you're not 100% sure that you can do the work on your own, that you absolutely don't do it on your own. You have to be so sure that you just are sure, and you just know that you're not going to hurt yourself, you're not going to hurt somebody else, you're not going to spiral downward by doing this work on your own. The ASC support, the Survivor to Thriver workbook's really, it's a huge workbook. It's like 115 pages long. And I still haven't even done the work in it. I read through it here on my show because I wanted to see what it was all about. And I haven't actually gone back and answered the questions and done the work on it. So I'm actually going to start doing that and concentrating, especially on the inner child and the grief work and stuff. But I think I should just go through the whole process with the book. I was going to do that like about a year ago. And I got busy, and really busy, and I couldn't do it. I didn't even have time. Like, I didn't have a day during the week that I could even do it, and I didn't make time, right? So now I'm like, well, okay, I think I will do this because I think it's going to be, along with what I'm doing with the visualizations and the inner child work, I think this is going to really help me get a lot further in my healing journey, you know. And I'm willing to look at it, ready to look at it, and I don't, you know, I know that I won't hurt myself or hurt somebody else or go spiraling backwards, right? And that's how sure I am of it. And so you have to be very, very sure and careful, right, what you're doing, right? Because this stuff is very, very, it's hard on people. You know what I mean? And we all know. I have so many people, some of my lovely, awesome friends here with me today. I've got Chris, and I've got a guest, and I've got Gypsy Witch, and same as you here. Hello, everybody. Glad you could be here. Thanks for being with me. I appreciate it. So he says, now we all need help along the way, right? We all need guidance and support. And he says it is a vitally important part of the healing process to learn to ask for help. Yeah. He says it is also a vital part of the process to learn discernment. So to learn to ask for help and guidance from people who are trustworthy, people who will not betray, abandon, shame, and abuse you. That means friends who will not abuse and betray you, right? That means counselors and therapists who will not judge and shame you and project their issues onto you, right? It's very important, right? This is so important. You know, there's always this huge thing about, oh, we have to learn how to trust, you know. We have to learn, you know, if we were abused as children, if we were mistreated as children, then, you know, those boundaries of trust and those boundaries were broken, and we need to learn how to trust, right? Well, you do have to be careful because people have the potential to hurt people. Like everybody has the potential to hurt everybody, right? And you do have to be careful who you're going to let into your life, you know. And I know I'm very aware of that and very conscious of what I will take, you know, what I will accept in my life and what I won't. And I have my boundaries set; they're very clear. You know, like I don't allow people to mistreat me. And really, I used to be so harsh about it and so dictator-like that if somebody even said anything, actually I still do it to a degree. If somebody said something I didn't want to hear or said something derogatory that I felt was abusive, they were out of my life like that. So fast. It was like, you know, don't let the door hit you on the way out. You know what I mean? Like I can cut people out really, really fast, but that's because it's my safety mechanism. You know, like it was no problem for me to cut my family off. Like I had no trouble with it at all. I was like, woohoo, you know. Yeah, but that's that they're abusers. You know, they're dysfunctional, they're codependent, and they're toxic, right? So of course I wanted to cut them out. They were just keeping me from really healing and moving forward. So, but I mean, as far as trusting people, you know, people I really believe have to prove themselves trustworthy. Like you can't just go trusting everybody, just because a healing book says we must learn how to trust. You have to be very careful who you tell your stuff to, and you also have to be very careful who you hang around with. Because we already know, I was abused as a child, there's every kind of sick person out there in the world. My parents were two of them, right? There's every kind of sick and twisted person out there. My brother was one of them, right? These people that hurt me that should have been able to be I should have been able to trust them, you know? And so this is the issue, right? I mean, you can't trust everybody. But what I had to do was I had to say, okay, I want people to trust me. Right, so I started to do this work a while back, and I thought, you know, I want people to trust me. You know, that I'm going to be careful with their feelings, that I'm going to be careful how I talk to them, how I interact in their life, so that I don't hurt them. You know, and I want people to trust me with that. You know what I mean? So I thought, okay, I have to then open up a bit to, you know, allow people. You know, they prove themselves trustworthy. They want to be my friend. I mean, that's awesome. You know, and especially when people start showing you that. Even on your most worst, difficult, horrible day, they're still there for you. Yeah, you know, I mean, and that's why, I mean, everybody has bad days. Everybody's got sad times. Everybody's got something going on in their life, whether they were abused or not, that is ripping their heart out at some point, right? And so, you know, it's really important, you know, to be careful who you do let into your life, and make sure that they are good and decent people that will be there for you. You know what I mean? That they aren't just going to use you again or abuse you again, right? But we have to be very careful. But he says, you know, it's okay to we have to learn how to ask for help, and I think that's a huge issue because, you know, I mean, for myself, you know, growing up abused, you know, you don't ask for help because you don't get any help, you know. I mean, it's not like, you know, anybody was helping me when I was a child. Like a few of my brothers were trying to help save me from beatings and stuff like that. But as far as the rest of the world, nobody cared. Even the social workers were coming around for a couple of years. We got a little bit of help, and then they were gone, and then it was all just garbage, back to the same old stuff. So we really didn't. There was just really no help there. So then you learn to roll with it, right? You get up in the morning and you pull yourself together, in whatever shape you're in. I'm talking about children who are physically abused, psychologically abused, sexually abused, and you got to go to school the next day and try to fit in with those guys, because you want to be accepted. You're not being accepted at home. You're being, abused and rejected, of course. You're looking for that acceptance somewhere, and you're thinking, oh my God, I know they know I'm different. I mean, whether there's bruises or not, whether there's physical marks or not, kids know, you know what I mean? I used to sit in class and I'd be able to pick out the kids that I thought were abused because they were the same as me. Like I could tell. So this is the thing kids do know. Kids used to actually single me out as the kid who was from the family that was bad, Like they used to single me out and they'd say, "Oh, look at your mother sends you to school in pajamas. Look what your mom does to you. Look how your mom treats you." Because I was always kind of looking pretty crappy. For my school pictures, my mom actually borrowed dresses. Like one of my school pictures, I have a little red dress on, and that was not my dress. My mom borrowed it to take the photo. And then the man told me I better smile because if I didn't, my parents would be very unhappy with me. I was actually crying in that photo. This is the thing. See, people just want to see what they want to see, right? But kids know. Kids know. So you got to pull yourself together and you got to go sit there and you got to deal with your day. And then you go home and you're like, oh my God, what am I getting myself in? What am I walking into? Getting off school and thinking about going home, and it's like, oh my God, I have to be tough. I have to be able to cope with this because there's no help for me. There's no help, So I'm going to have to be able to roll with whatever's going on, And that's a harsh place to be because then as an adult, we do the same thing. We won't go for that help. We won't ask for help. We won't reach out and get help. And that's why so many parents who were abused end up, if they do, the percentage that abuse their children will not go for help because they're screwed. You know what I mean? This is a cycle of abuse. This is what we need to stop. But the issue is, it's hard for me to ask for help. I'm learning how to do it. But what I'm also learning how to do is receive help. If people help me, it's kind of like I have to be thankful for it and be happy to receive it, and allow myself to get help. And that's what I decided 4 years ago. I was like, man, if I can't do this self-help, then I will go I will make a commitment to myself that I will go for professional help, whatever it takes. Like whatever it takes for me to make it through this and come out on the other side victorious, is what I'm going to do, right? And so in other words, I just started to be, I just started to be my own best advocate. I started to realize that, man, I did not deserve what happened to me as a child, and no child does. None of us did, none of us do. And so I thought, I have to become my own best advocate. I have to start treating myself right and being kind to myself and good to myself, and in turn being good to others. And, turn this thing around from hatred and anger and self-loathing, and hating life to and just being in pain and hell, to learning that no, I have love in my heart. I do, and I can find that. I can find that joy and find that peace within there. It's all kind of working through and helping to helping me on this road to this wholeness that I kind of I envision for myself, this wholeness, right? This sense of being whole, which I'm still working on some things, right? So, but it's an amazing journey, and that's why I'm just like, oh, please don't ever give up, please don't ever give up. It's hard, and we're gonna have bad days. Everybody has bad days. Even people that were not abused have bad days, right? So we know we're really gonna have bad days. So you have to get some help and allow yourself to get help and reach out. And if you can't cope, you call it crisis line. You do whatever you have to do to stay here and have have a good life. We certainly deserve it. Thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. I got all my good friends here and everything. Just awesome that you could be here with me. I love you all dearly, and I'll be back tomorrow on the same time, same place. One Child Abuse Survivor to another, and then tonight for my shows as well as Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatchers Talk Radio. So if I can get you guys any information or whatever, let me know. I have lots of good info, about different types of things that I feel were really good information. And otherwise, have a good day and everything, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.